and welcome back to Random Librarian here on YouTube. Because it is genuinely impossible to stop myself, I have another book haul to show off to you from my last trip to London. So this trip actually was really fun, kind of last minute. My friend Tash, who I told you about last time, runs a joint bookstagram with my friend Anna. You guys have seen in the background of at least one video. And the backstory there is that Anna and I became really close friends right before COVID hit, and Anna is a lawyer from the UK who was working in Boston. We met through Bookstagram. There's a whole backstory. I think I talked about it in a podcast episode with Elizabeth. And when COVID hit, Anna was living alone, so I kind of kidnapped her and brought her to my family's house, and we ended up living together for months. And her sister texted me out of the blue and was like, oh, it'll be so fun if you could come this weekend. I was like, oh, I don't think I can. I've got blah, 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 something to do. But like, I'll come see you soon. It'll be so good to see you. And then Anna texted me and spilled the beans. She's like, I'm gonna be there to get my visa renewed, so you should probably come. And I was like, okay, yep, correct. Canceled all my plans, and it also happened to be Tasha's birthday weekend, so there was a lot going on, and it was very fun. And I had a couple hours where I was just kind of roaming London by myself after sending Anna off to the airport. So, of course, I went to a bookstore, and it's a bookstore that I hadn't been to before, because why not? And that is Daunt Books, which you have probably heard of before. Their tote bags are stellar, and I'm pretty sure that she gave me this one without charging me, which was quite kind. It's got the nice square bottom and can hold a million things. Also has a little pocket next to the handle. That's perfect for like keys, wallet, phone, pens, makeup. Amazing. We love to see it. There's also a pocket on the side, which I think is intended for a water bottle. Very smart tote bag. Amazing. Daunt Books, 10 out of 10. Daunt Books is beautiful. You've probably seen it on one of those like bookstores you need to visit around the world, and it's organized by section, by country, which is like really cool. It's kind of like a bookstore for people who like to travel. Who have been bitten by the travel bug. So just based on that alone, very cool. I wanted to go explore, and I had a feeling that they'd have something I've been looking for my apartment, which is a little taste of home. So I found this cute little poster of Boston. I got it framed when I came home. It made it home without getting rained on too badly or too jostled by my train journey. So I have a little bit of Boston in my French apartment now. Also pretty funny because my friend Kitty texted me after I posted about that, and she said, oh, I have that same one that she bought in Charlestown. So it's a small world. That's really all I can say here. Then let's see, books that I picked up at Daunt Books. I found these two in the sections that are organized by country. This one I think was actually kind of on a table by its own because it is a National Geographic Traveler Book of the Year, and it's around the world in 80 trains, which just sounds really clever, first of all. Also, as I was flipping through, because I was like, oh, I wonder what this is, I passed a page and saw the term Dunkin' Donuts. So I know they go to my neck of the woods, and it starts in London, they go directly to Paris. Basically, this feels like exactly something that I need to read, especially as I'm starting to kind of fall in love with trains as a way of travel. It's not really something we have as much in the US, so I'm really interested to see how those like US legs of the journey go, because it's nothing compared to like train travel in Europe. And apparently, this author also did a whole bunch of train travel in India, which also sounds very interesting, and I feel like I'm probably gonna have to go look up whatever articles or books she wrote about that as well. I mean, doesn't it sound perfect? It's everything I want to read about because it's everywhere I want to go, which is the whole world. which is amazing. So this one just really struck my fancy, and a little bit of serendipity seeing good old Duncan's in my flipping through meant that I had to buy a copy. So that's what that is. Then I went across the hall, which is the downstairs section, and there is this book which grabbed my attention. So this is from the Japanese wall, and it's the Decagon House Murders. And on the cover, which is very arresting, it says the Japanese cult classic mystery. And I was like, I know next to nothing about Japanese fiction in general. So where better to start than with their cult classics? And on the back, it is a Japanese bestseller inspired by Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None. I've been reading this a little bit here and there before bed, and while I don't recognize I don't recommend the timing of that, I do really recommend the story. It's one of those things where you can kind of tell it's in translation, but in a charming way of like, I read that and I don't think that that's the word I would choose to use for that, but you don't know what the original word is, but just there's something that's kind of just lets you know that this is not originally written in English. I'm just gonna hope you know what I mean and it doesn't come across as something really dumb to say. But even in that case, because sometimes that happens and it's like, ooh, stops me right in my tracks. If I read things translated from English to French or French to English, sometimes that happens to me where I'm like, I can't read this. I need to read it in its original language. But in this one, there's something really fitting about the way that it's written and the choices that were made in the translation, in that like everyone involved in this is a kind of amateur sleuth. So having a bit of distance between what is on the page and like how I would say something almost feels like it fits within the constraints of the story. Let me tell you a little bit about the story before I try to tell you more about why the language fits. So we have a whole bunch of students from a university going to this deserted island. The students in question are part of the mystery club. They are fans of mystery novels. They put out a newsletter with mystery stories. They do a lot of things together. They even have names and nicknames that they've given each other based on best-selling, well-known literary mystery writers. So that's kind of where we are, just at the base. So it's like literary folks speaking in a literary way is kind of where the language fits in. And they go to this island because a murder was committed on the island within the last year, I think. And they think that it would be super cool to go and stay on this abandoned island, kind of in the vein of And Then There Were None, and write for their newsletter and just like have a vacation. Simultaneously, the ex-members of this club who stayed at home, who didn't go on the trip, receive a letter saying, "My daughter was murdered." And it's someone that was part of their club and died because of alcohol consumption. So two of these ex-members start trying to figure out like why they got these letters, whether the people who are on the island also got these letters, what actually happened in that original murder. And the two storylines are both so engaging, and I'm having so much fun with the story, and it's really stressing me out, but I do really recommend it as well. So that's kind of what's going on here, and I think this was a great selection from my first trip to Daunt Books. So adding a little mini review as part of my book haul. The other three that I bought were, there's also a bit of a story behind why I bought these. So I recently read a book that was set in Venice, and it reminded me of how much I wanted to go to Venice as a kid, which reminded me of why I really wanted to go to Venice as a kid, which was Cornelia Funke's The Thief Lord. And that made me think of how much I loved all of her stories, and how I was practically feral over her shelf at the library as a child. And I texted my best friend about it, being like, I feel like I should really reread these, blah, blah, blah. We ended up talking about Inkheart the most because she was down to reread them with me. So hopefully that will actually happen. If it doesn't, I'm going to be reading them on my own because I went to that section and look at how pretty these are. So these are like offensively beautiful books and I couldn't leave them on the shelf. They had to come home with me. I mean, are you kidding? Who let these be so pretty? These are art. And yeah, so I mean, so this is definitely an interesting series to start with, or books to start with, from this author, because as much as I was obsessed with Inkheart, I mean, what bookworm doesn't want to be able to go into the story or pull things out of the story that they're reading and loving? That's just like, it blew my young reading mind that someone had come up with this story. As much as I loved book one, book two, I think I remember being pretty disappointed by, and I don't even know if I finished book three. I think that was mainly because like I didn't want any romance in my books when I was a kid, and seeing Maggie, not Maggie, I thought it was Maggie. Seeing Maggie have a romantic interest in the later books made me like not like it as much. So it should be interesting to reread because like I don't really have fully formed memories of the final two books other than like not really liking them. So it should be interesting to see how I react to them as an adult reader who has gotten way less anti-romance. But if anyone else would like to join in on rereading any and everything that Cornelia Funke has written, you're welcome to join me, and you can hit me up on Bookstagram if you would like to suggest an order to this reread-a-thon thing. The next two were not books that I had purchased, but books that I was gifted by my lovely friends. So Tash picked this one up for me from her local charity shop, as they're called in the UK. And this is a book that she has been recommending for a very long time. And I really like medical memoirs. I thought, why not? It'll be fun. And I had heard that this was pretty funny. I have read this. This is like the first thing that I read when I came back, and oh my gosh, this book is so good. It's so funny. Like so funny. Is there anything more like public facing than a doctor? I don't think so. So seeing the like breadth of patients who come through Adam K's hospital is just, oh my god. There are some scenes in here that I will never forget. There's one with a Kinder Egg and a proposal that I will let you discover for yourself if you are so inclined, because what the fuck? But in addition to being so funny, it also can be really poignant, especially at the end, and it introduced me to a lot of things about like the NHS and how medicine works in the UK that I had never thought about before. I kind of thought the NHS was like done and forever part of life in the UK, but it talks about the cuts to the NHS and the political arguments around the NHS and how that makes an already difficult job so much more difficult. I don't know, I just thought it was, yes, very funny, but also still has such a reverence for medicine that I loved this book. I loved this book. Next up, this book was absolutely everywhere on like the, I want to call it the Metro, but that's incorrect. So this book was everywhere on the underground, and they had posters everywhere. I know Tash and Anna have both read it. It's called The Twins by L.V. Matthews. and it's a thriller. Tash is really, really good at recommending thrillers. I think she enjoyed this one, but Anna didn't like the twist. So I get to be the tiebreaker between two very fast readers. This might take me a little bit longer than it took them to read, but I am really excited to dive in. So that is my second book haul in 2 months, from 2 visits in 2 months to London, and I hope that you enjoyed it. And probably for now, I will try to keep myself from buying more books because I have started building quite a collection for myself, but it makes my apartment feel like home, so I think it is warranted. In any case, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know by leaving a like or subscribing down below, and I will see you guys in another one very soon. Bye guys!